Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss how once again the prospects of our adapting to Brexit in the UK has taken a little turn for the worse as the unelected bureaucrat managing everything has revealed more ignorance of the basics of international negotiation. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So just to be clear, there are still no upsides of Brexit. If there were, that still wouldn't make it good for the UK. For that, there would need to be net upsides. And that's where a political policy can be debatable. Almost every policy from whichever party, Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, SNP, whoever, tend to have upsides and downsides to them. You can present them in a way that sounds like a good policy. You can present in a way that sounds like a bad policy. Hence the political debate. And your politics is based on how you calculate the combination of those benefits and drawbacks. Do you see the policy as a net benefit or a net drawback? That entirely depends on which numerical values, plus and minus, you attach to each bit. But with Brexit, there is, as yet, no such calculation. There are plenty of negatives. There are no positives. You try and poke Brexit supporters for one, and what can they come up with? We're getting loads of trade deals. No, we have three. One with Japan that is worse than the one that the EU have with Japan. It also heavily favours Japan, but that's not the point. We had better market access with the EU deal. If we were still in the EU, our trading relationship with Japan would favour us more than the one that we have now. Second, we have one with the EU. But as even the person who agreed that on the UK side is against it, I am yet to find a Brexit supporter that is cheering this one on. So even they aren't claiming this one as a win. Third, we have the one in principle with Australia. Again, not seeing Brexit supporters really claiming that as a big win because the damage from this one is even more obvious than the one with Japan. All the rest are EU agreements that the EU negotiated, that we were allowed to carry over. Not one line has been changed for us to make it unique for us. What else have they got? Trade is down. Businesses are going under, but they're not being replaced with new ones taking advantage of some area of growth. If there was an area of the economy that was shrinking, but another one that was growing as a result of Brexit, well, you might get some balance and some overall net benefit. But that's not happening. We're short of workers now, so we're starting to see more and more empty shelves and vegetable baskets in the supermarkets. We have a fascist government that now feels comfortable enough to get school children to sing a Hitler Youth-style indoctrination song. Brexit's a shocking idea, but it will be increasingly obvious to people that this is the case. Now, Andrew Adonis, one of the leaders of the Rejoin campaign, believes that we will have reversed it within the next generation. I believe this is likely, not certain. There are a couple of little factors that I may need to talk about in another video, but it is always difficult to predict political outcomes so far ahead. Frankly, British politics is in such chaos right now, I don't even want to predict what will happen in the next month. But the government will surely be seized of the notion that in order to get away with their crimes against the country, they need to hide the bodies. In fact, they've been doing some of this. On January the 1st of this year, we left the customs union single market. Actually, from our point of view, it was technically 11 p.m. the previous day. But the point is that we had, in one instant, very different customs arrangements to our immediate neighbours. We had no implementation period. None at all. The transition period technically was supposed to be that, but we didn't do anything with it. We just argued. All of our immediate neighbours, that's it. Every single one of them, different customs arrangements. Now that necessitates full customs checks at the border and a whole new importing and exporting regime. This would have been very bad for the UK, even with the pandemic suppressing demand for travel and trade. So when it came to imports, the government just didn't carry out checks at all. At some point, this will cause some friction internationally, but right now we're getting away with it. The EU don't care. They're benefiting from it. It is giving their businesses a competitive advantage. In terms of exports, EU countries did start applying those straight away because they don't want to give our businesses a competitive advantage. And they certainly don't want to annoy their trading partners around the world. So that caused a certain amount of chaos among some industries in Britain, most notably fishing in the early days, also small businesses of various products. And with British exports to Northern Ireland, where we handle the checks, but it's based on EU rules, we had grace periods for various types of checks, some of which we unilaterally extended if we didn't get formal permission to do so. So the government certainly give the impression that they realise there are serious problems with Brexit that they need to deal with. So you just look at the rhetoric in the newspapers and you see it as a crass political game to maybe keep the gammons distracted while they negotiate in earnest behind the scenes to come to agreements with the EU in order to eventually get to an amicable working relationship. So in other words, behind the scenes, they know they need to work with the EU. They're really doing that, and they're just saying what they're saying in the press just to keep us all distracted and make out that they are actually, in some sort of opposition when they're not. But then you get a situation like earlier this week. Unelected Brexit Minister David Frost was answering questions from MPs. He was asked at one point what he had learned about the EU. And he said, it's different negotiating as a member state than as a third party. One of the problems with the process was that we hadn't fully internalised the difference. Now, apart from the fact that's one of those rare statements where he's accepting the responsibility himself, not trying to blame the EU. But the response really is, let me get this straight. When we were EU members, our government had a seat on the EU Council with rights of veto that many other members didn't have. We also had a commissioner. We also had a large voting bloc in the Parliament, albeit with a fair chunk of it in the hands of the Brexit Party lunatics who only showed up to cause trouble. We also formed a sizable proportion of the EU civil service, of course. But yes, it's understood that as a result of being members, we not only were involved in all discussions at every level of the EU, and we didn't just have a voice. As one of the big three, nothing significant ever really happened without our approval. So what then happens when you lose that seat on the council, on the commission, and all those seats in the parliament? What happens when there aren't any British officials working in the corridors of power in the EU? I would have thought it was obvious that you would lose not only the involvement in the conversations, but also the power to make decisions. But apparently the guy who is in charge of Brexit right now, and has been for a while, didn't actually realise that there would be any difference at all in those two states of affairs. He thought we'd be taken just as seriously, be involved just as much, and presumably have just as much influence over decisions. I mean, there are some aspects of Brexit that are down to ignorance. Any system of government is complex. Being honest, very few of us can understand government fully. You cannot fully understand it unless you immerse yourself completely in it for years. So there are realistically, in any system of government, only a handful of experts, genuine experts. The EU is no different, arguably more complex because it is balancing its own political purpose with the national aims of over 24 members. But this one goes beyond ignorance. This is just plain stupid. Actually stupid. I don't believe that even ordinary Brexit supporters would imagine we'd have had the same access to inter-EU discussions and decisions once we'd left. And this isn't the first time that David Frost has been happy to admit just how useless he is, because that's what gets me most of all. I'd prefer it if he just tried to lie his way out of these embarrassments. Because at least if he was lying, at least if he was trying to claim that he hadn't been stupid, it would show that he was aware, that he was conscious of how stupid he had been, and gives me some slender hope that he intends to correct his error. But when you're happy to admit your stupidity, that suggests you don't even see it as a drawback for your job. And so you might not bother to even see the need to correct it. He has, so far, said that the withdrawal agreement that he wrote is a load of tosh and should never have been signed. He said that the trade and cooperation agreement that he also delivered was a load of crap in many areas. He has said that he didn't understand how trade with the EU works as a third country. And now he's saying he had no idea that the level of influence and involvement that we would have in the EU would diminish as a third country. It's breathtaking that people are not demanding his immediate resignation. Not only is he occupying a cabinet position, a senior position in government when he's not even an MP, but he's doing the job really badly. You can't even call him a technocrat because he's terrible. The reason the EU bent over backwards for us before we left, and they did, was because although we didn't involve ourselves in EU affairs much after we triggered Article 50, which was stupid, we should have done, we nonetheless had the power to. We were still EU members up until the end of January 2020, and we had the power to involve ourselves at every level of the EU. Remember when Jacob Rees-Mogg and Boris Johnson threatened to block all EU business if they didn't give us what we wanted? That sort of political vandalism that was threatened. To an extent, we had the ability to do that. The EU don't really have a way of dealing with a member state acting in bad faith. Just look at the situation with Hungary. But once we'd left the EU, they didn't have to stand for any of our nonsense. We can now do nothing to block their decision making. They can now do what they like. They have their conversations without us piping up. They can make their decisions without us going, no, we don't like that. And Frost didn't understand that. Bloody hellfire. How long could it now be before we actually start even making progress on Brexit? Because we are where we are. I'm not going along with the embrace Brexit rubbish, but we do have to accept it. It has happened. I want it reversed. I know it's not going to be reversed for some time. Before it can be reversed, we actually have to live with it. We have to learn to live with it because we're stuck with it for a while. Progress on that is going to take a long time because we do not fundamentally understand how to make progress. This is why some Brexit supporters maintain that they still agree with their Leave vote. I was listening to someone yesterday saying they understand that Brexit's a complete mess, but they don't regret their vote because they said, well, it should have been better. It would have been better with a competent government handling it. And it's like, I mean, it wouldn't have been better than membership, but you cannot deny that it would have been a lot better than the situation we find ourselves in. Though I would still argue that no competent government would have ultimately gone through with Brexit without a confirmatory referendum on the final terms. This is why every single party, possible exception of the DUP and half the Conservative Party, but every other political party in this country wanted just that. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.